All right, folks, this is Harris Sultan and Syrian girl, the Syrian girl that all our Israelis love so much. She just shared a tweet, which is actually a screenshot of Harris's, which is an Israeli left wing media outlet, saying that Israel has agreed not to attack Iran given that the US allows Israel to go into Rafah and destroy Hamas once and for all. Now, I don't know how true that is, or if that was always the intention of Israel. If that was always the intention of Israel, then Benjamin Netanyahu, I may not agree with your politics, but you've played a masterstroke because here we are hoping that if this escalates, then in the process, it would get to a stage where Israel would be forced to attack the Islamic regime headquarters or weaken the Islamic regime so much that the Iranian people would take over and they would topple their regime. Obviously, that would not have been pretty. A lot would have happened, and the United States has learned their lesson from their recent adventures that whenever you topple a regime, something even worse comes out and they replace them. So, this is the reason why the United States does not want to touch Iran even with a 10-foot pole. So, Israel would have known all of this. Now, as we know, that before Israel bombed this so-called Iranian consulate in Damascus, which we know it wasn't a consulate, as Amin Nawadi in my previous video explained it perfectly well, that you can't just hire a building, plan terrorist attacks on a foreign country, and then say, well, you can't take any action against us because it's got diplomatic immunity, it's a consulate. You can't do that. That's not how it works. This is exactly what they think, that they can use hospitals in Gaza for their military purposes and then expect not to be bombed. So the moment you use a civilian building, whether that's a consulate or an embassy or a hospital or a school, the moment you start using it for your military purposes, then that's it, you lose the protection. So before Israel attacked that so-called consulate of Iran, we saw how Biden was increasingly distancing himself from Benjamin Netanyahu and by extension with Israel. And he was not letting Israel to go into Rafah and destroy Hamas once and for all. Now that was obviously very uneasy. So what was Israel thinking at that time? Now here we are thinking that, okay, well, Israel's going to go in regardless, whether it has the support of the US or not. Israel's going to go in. I kept saying that Israel cannot keep on fighting this war without the US. And this is the reason why, despite Biden embarrassing Benjamin Netanyahu multiple times, Benjamin Netanyahu has never said anything in return, because you know that. You can't lose America. Israel can ignore the UK, Germany, and France, but Israel cannot ignore the United States. The true power of Israel is the support of the United States. So you cannot lose that. So what could they do to regain the support of the United States? Well, heat up things with Iran, because now the big boys get involved. And I told you that if Iran attacks Israel and Israel retaliates back, then even though Biden doesn't want to get involved, he would have to get involved. On that scale, even Biden cannot abandon Israel. So I reckon that Benjamin Netanyahu played a masterstroke and he deliberately bombed that so-called fake consulate of Iran. He could heat up things with Iran and then America would be on his side. And as we saw, immediately after, when Iran stupidly retaliated and could not even kill a single Israeli, thank goodness for that, the whole of Western world that was starting to distance itself from Netanyahu's Israel, they just jumped in Israel's defense. So Iran stupidly brought them closer together. Now the ball was in Israel's court. And again, I'm just suspecting if this news story is true, then obviously Benjamin Netanyahu would have been saying, well, they attacked us. If you don't want me to retaliate against Iran, then you got to give me something in return, because I got to please my people. Well, you have to let me go into Rafah. And now, if the US has allowed Israel to go into Rafah, which the US wasn't allowing before, then it's a massive win for Israel and it's a massive L for Iran, because Iran inadvertently sanctioned this operation against Gazans in Rafah, which obviously is not against Gazans, it's against Hamas. But that's not how they see it. They see it that Israel wants to kill every civilian, which is obviously not true. And unfortunately, a lot of civilians are going to die in that because Hamas is not going to change its rules of engagement, and they're going to continue using Palestinian children and women as human shields. And unfortunately, Israel, in an effort to clean that region from Hamas, would have to carry out operations. And as a result, unfortunately, some people are going to die. I hope the number doesn't go higher than 35,000. I think the total casualty, again, these are Hamas's numbers, but the UN and other organizations have said that those numbers are usually reliable. So let's just go with that. So people, unfortunately, are going to die. I think the number is around about 32,000 or something. So I hope it doesn't go higher than 35,000, but Israel cannot let up. I've been saying this from day one, that with or without the US, even though it becomes increasingly difficult for Israel to go into Rafah or continue on with this war without the US's help, but with or without them, Israel has to do it. But Israel played a masterstroke. Their decision to go after this Iranian consulate and kill those 7 people. By the way, since then, Iran has actually admitted that General Reza Zahidi did not only give his blessing to Hamas to carry out the October 7 terrorist attacks, but also planned them. So now there is a confession. Everyone had been saying, including Iran, that, oh, we didn't actively play a role in October 7 terrorist attacks. But now they've admitted it. And Amin Namabi explains this. The reason why they've admitted it is because their people, their hardliners, the only support the Islamic regime has got left, the hardliners of Iran, that make up only 8% of the Iranian population, they want to please them because they're saying that, hang on a second, they killed 7 of your generals. You only injured 1 little girl and she was also a Bedouin Muslim. To counter that, Iran is saying, no, they only killed 7 of our guys. We killed 1,200 of their people. So that was a coping mechanism for them. But regardless of that, Iran played a very stupid move by retaliating against Israel. They walked into their trap. If this was the original plan all along, well done, Israel. So again, it's war. It's ugly. I'm not a warmonger. I want this war to be over as soon as possible, but not without the end of Hamas. And yes, like other Iranians, I'm not Iranian, but I've spoken to Amin and he gave us a lot of evidence. Go check out my last video. There's so many Iranians were hoping that Israel would attack the Islamic regime, not civilians, Islamic regime, and consequently, we might see a renaissance in Persia. Unfortunately, if this news story is true, then it might not happen. But anyway, that's still good news. The world without Hamas is the world I would want to live in. So if that was always a plan, then well done, Israel. So I hope you liked today's video. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And if you would like me to continue making awesome videos like these, then you can support the channel by becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Harris Sultan, or you can buy me a coffee by going to buymeacoffee.com/Harris Sultan. So until next time, ta-da. If you'd like to support my work, you can become my patron by going to patreon.com/Harris Sultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee.